The skill of archery has always fascinated mankind. The days are long gone where bows were made of pine and the arrows used tips made of flint. The art of using the bow and the arrows, once considered to be the most essential prerequisite for the soldiers, generals, and even the kings of a kingdom in the ancient past, has been transformed into a professional sport. Robert Levins is an archer. He hunts exclusively with his bow. And with more than 15 years under his belt, he's gotten very good at it. Most archers sight their bows in around the 50-yard mark. But because Robert's hunting techniques usually involve stalking the animal, he understands that being able to shoot further than that may be required. After successfully sighting in his bow up to 100 yards, he's ready for the hunt. It's an early morning for Robert.
Let's go, heading West Texas. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Slept about an hour and a half last night. Got an 8-hour drive. It's gonna be a brutal drive, but we're not gonna get there if we don't get started, so let's go.
He's got a long drive ahead of him as he heads from Louisiana to West Texas. With him is longtime friend and archer, Andrew Taylor. He's spending a few days at a ranch he visits annually, Ivy Ranch.
We're deep in the heart of Southwest Texas, smack dab in the middle of the hill country, home to Ivy Ranch. Some of the best trophy Texas exotics you could ever ask for come off this ranch.
It's a haven for a multitude of animals, many being exotics. From fallow deer, black bucks, ibex, and more. It's a sight any true hunter would enjoy. And for Robert, it's an indication that his days spent at Ivy Ranch would not be disappointing.
We just came across one of the biggest fallow deer I've ever seen. He was a stud, and I've hunted this hill country for 15 years. It just goes to show you what this place has to offer. We got to find out where these animals are watering it. I mean, it's 100 degrees out here. They've got to at least water twice a day. And if we can find out exactly where they're watering at, we can set up in a little makeshift ground blind.
The plan is to have Andrew make an attempt at a fallow deer. For many, many years, Andrew has dreamt of taking a fallow deer. As one of the animals on the top of his bucket list, he's desperately hoping to take one this trip.
This is the second trip I've made here to Ivy Ranch chasing this particular fallow buck. Last time, couldn't get in sync with the wind. The wind was just swirling. It'd be cold one day and hot the next. It's hard just to find where he was going to be at any given point in time. When Robert called more enough, I wanted to come back and try it again. You know, I jumped all over that.
They set up a ground blind near a popular water hole in preparation for the next morning. Andrew is hoping to see his fallow deer and to get his chance at slinging an arrow.
We got a ground blind set up on this little cattle fence right here. It's not a high fence, just a little 4.5 foot cattle fence. We set it up over a water hole. We're gonna try to sit here in the evening times, catch some animals slipping in to catch some water right before dark.
After setting up a ground blind near this water hole, they retire for the night. Early that next morning, just before the sun rose, Andrew and Robert head out to their recently set up ground blind.
So this morning we got up, went and got in the ground blind, overlooking the water hole.
The morning is quiet. Too quiet. The sun was rising, and after being there a couple of hours, they saw nothing.
There wasn't nothing going on there, so about 8:30, we got up and went to go try to find him out grazing around before he went back and laid down.
Mid-morning, they decided to leave their ground blind and start their trek on foot in search of this fallow deer. With over 35,000 acres of land to traverse, the challenge of stalking animals becomes obvious. It is up to Andrew and Robert to use the wind and sun to their advantage to ensure the best possible shot at one of these fallow deer. Then finally, 2 fallow deer are spotted over some mesquite.
And like an artist, we couldn't have drew it up any better. We're walking on the edge of this mesquite scrub brush thicket, and I just happened to catch a movement out the corner of my eye, threw my Swarovski optics up, and there he was, making his way right to us.
This stud fallow deer was standing there.
We had the wind on him. We sat down, and he could not have come out any better than where he came out, 30 yards, broadside.
Andrew quickly gets into position and readies his bow. This would be his moment of truth. His many years of waiting for a deer like this would finally culminate in this one moment. The deer gets closer and closer. At only 35 yards away, this fallow deer stares right at Andrew. His nerves begin to get the best of him as he realizes that this was his only chance. Andrew draws, aims, then lets one fly.
A little high in the shoulder.
I shot him a little high and far forward, and I'm not gonna lie, I was sick.
Andrew let that Grim Reaper go. High in the shoulder, wasn't a real good shot.
We didn't have plenty of time to die. We just reviewed the footage. It's a little far forward and right in the shoulder, real high too. The only thing that'll be able to save us on this shot is that Grim Reaper broadhead.
Though the shot was placed too high, it did sufficient damage to leave a trackable blood trail.
We come across this opening right here. We come across one little drop of blood, another little drop of blood.
That's some good blood there. It looks to be like high lungs.
We got about that much penetration. Right slap dead in the shoulder.
As they begin to track, evidence becomes clear that this fallow deer was not too far.
Blood just everywhere. Then it just stopped. We went over this ridge. I told him to glass. Let's just glass underneath all the trees, see what we could see.
Our blood's getting thin. We hadn't seen a drop of blood in the last probably 50 feet or so. So we're just gonna come over this ridge and just glass and just hope. That's all we can do.
We weren't glassing 5 seconds, and he said, Robert, hey, is that horns right there?
When Robert and I topped that hill and we started glassing, and I seen them antlers just sticking up over the bushes. I mean, it, you know, man, there was nothing like it.
Yeah, baby, sweet. Yeah, baby. Yeah. I looked at my Swarovski, and he was down, right down there underneath that old mesquite tree.
That is full velvet, big, huge, nice palms, bunch of points. Got a real nice kicker coming off this front eye guard here. And look, That's that Grim Reaper broadhead. That is the only reason we recovered this animal.
That was probably one of the greatest feelings in the world, knowing that I had helped him accomplish something that he had wanted to accomplish for a very, very long time.
And when I finally got my hands on that big boy, I realized it wasn't a dream anymore. It was a dream come true.
To Andrew, this wasn't just another deer. This was a prize trophy for him and an experience he'll never forget. It's a new day on Ivy Ranch, and while Andrew is still somewhat speechless from his hunt earlier, Robert knows it's his turn to perform. Back at the lodge, Robert ensures accuracy by slinging a few arrows before the hunt.
Making sure my Matthews helium is shooting accurately before the hunt is extremely important. And since Andrew had successfully taken his fallow deer, I was up.
With a few adjustments made, he is ready for the hunt. Robert has had many sightings with several species of wild game, from red stags to hogs to axis deer, black bucks, scimitar-horned oryx, and ibex. One specific herd of ibex caught Robert's attention. It seemed everywhere he was with Andrew, this herd of ibex with a large alpha male appeared.
Here on the Ivy Ranch, they have hybrid ibex, which is a cross between a Persian ibex and a Catalina goat. And it takes 30 inches to make a gold record ibex.
So it wasn't difficult for him to decide what animal he wanted to take.
I really came here for my buddy Andrew to harvest a fallow deer. But after seeing this ibex and putting a lot of quality time into getting close to him, I had to take him out of sight and out of mind.
Ibex can be very skittish. They have an acute sense of hearing and good enough vision that would make stalking this animal quite difficult. But Robert is determined. This is the kind of challenge he's been preparing for. Though there are thousands of acres to cover, Robert has a very good idea where this herd of ibex would be. With his eyes constantly glassing the area, it's not long before Robert spots the exact herd of ibex a few hundred yards away.
We finally got behind this rock pile and I threw up the rangefinder 97 yards. Sweat is just dripping all in my eyes. And I drew back on this goat. And just as I was about to release that arrow, a female came in and just was like blocking. They start moving off. I grabbed the rangefinder, range it again, 127 yards. I drew back. The same female comes in and blocks me again. I finally got as close as I could get when all the cover was gone. Threw up my rangefinder, 140 yards. I ranged him one last time. It's now or never. Turned around, looked at my cameraman, made sure he was ready. I drew that bow back. Aim, a lot of wind coming from right to left.
soon as I released that arrow, he took 2 steps and I shot just behind him. When I saw that arrow take flight and I saw the wind taking it, it was depressing because it was a lot of hard work to get to where we were at.
Wind was blowing right to left pretty good bit. I released that arrow, and while the arrow was in flight, he takes 2 steps and I shoot right behind him. Everything we had worked for all day was just gone.
It's a disappointing end to the long day of stalking. And with 1 day remaining, he understands his time is running out. It's a brand new morning, and Robert is determined to get his ibex during this last day of hunting that he has.
Last day of the hunt, 9th inning, 4th quarter. This is for all the marbles.
He wastes no time in getting back in the field. The wind and sun were in his favor as he proceeded up a ridge toward the herd of ibex.
Start going up this ridge, boom, spotted them. Coming over an opening, over a ridge.
Robert spots the herd of ibex through some trees and immediately gets ready. His rangefinder puts this ibex 60 yards away, a distance he's very confident with. Oblivious to Robert's presence, the ibex stands still for several seconds, giving Robert the perfect chance at making a great shot.
We got the wind straight in our favor. We're coming, and I just see them looking straight away from us. And I knew if it was gonna happen, it was gonna be right now. And here I am, closing the distance, creeping and creeping and creeping, going from binoculars to rangefinder, trying to get into a really, really effective range because there is no tomorrow. I get to 60 yards, turn around, look at my cameraman. He gives me the thumbs up, draw that bow back.
He made an excellent shot.
We just stalked up on these ibex, had a great wind, come over this ridge. He was standing there 60 yards. I drew back my Matthews helium, let that Grim Reaper fly, and I promise you, he's not gonna be far. Let's go see if we can't find some blood.
We start tracking him, go up there to where we shot him, and instantly, boom, blood everywhere. Blood here, there was blood there. It was just spraying out of there.
Blood, a whole stream of blood all the way right here.
Evidence of a great hit was everywhere, and tracking this ibex was very easy.
I mean, it is spewing out of there.
Blood here, still got blood here. Lots of blood here. Blood right here. Joel, look at him right here, baby. Yeah.
After tracking for only a few feet, Robert saw the horns of his ibex down the hill.
Look at this ibex. That's what I'm talking about. 3 days of searching for this thing. Grim Reaper broadhead really opened him up right there. I mean, there's a hole the size of the bottom of a Coke can. The miles we had put in, the time that we had invested in this animal, it all came together in the last hour of daylight, and it couldn't be any better than that.
Miles and miles were covered stalking this ibex, and the glorious victory of placing his hands on those horns, truly a surreal moment for Robert, and a moment he'll never forget.